Hi, my name is Jacqueline Austin. I am a Human Development and Family Studies major. I chose to speak about violence in schools because being a Human Development and Family Studies major, you have to work with children and adults, family settings, individual, anything of that nature. And wanting to make sure that these children and adults have everything that they need to succeed mentally, physically, emotionally, academically. That's a part of my job. So if we're having problems in a school or even at home with different things that keeps them from being successful, that's my job and my place to be able to step in, figure out what's going on, finding solutions, and making sure they become the best version of themselves. So having violence in schools keeps them from being the best version of themselves academically, and it keeps them from having a strong mental front, a strong emotional front, and possibly a strong physical front. So let's talk about the things that go on, things that we may need, things that we can be able to do to fix that and to keep that from being an issue. What is violence in schools? So violence in schools are things that go on between peers of students, and it can happen with teachers as well. But it's things that can be harmful, like physical violence, assault with a weapon, fighting, bullying, beating, things of that nature. Or it can be things that are kind of on the non-violent side, which are things like bullying, verbal abuse, being singled out, things of that nature. You have like emotional and verbal abuse, possession of drugs, whether it's pills, other kind of drugs, vandalism. You even have sexual assault, unwanted advances, anything that causes mental and physical distress on a person. How does this happen? It happens when you have maybe lack of resources or help. The perpetrator can feel like that's the only way they can express themselves is being violent or picking on somebody, or they're being told that this is something that, oh, they're just playing, they like you because they're picking on you, kind of thing. So they feel like it's normal even if it isn't, especially if it's something that the victim does not want or is hurting the victim to a certain extent. There can also be no school psychologist, nobody for the victim or the perpetrator to talk to, depending on what's going on, aggressive behaviors, nothing being addressed. The youth is not having a way to be able to cope with different things, whether it's distress or anger or things that they deal with at home. Sometimes children deal with things at home and they find school to be their escape, and if they can't escape from the things at school from home or vice versa, it becomes a problem, and it makes a terrible environment for not only children but for teachers as well. The impact on students is more than anything as far as mentally, emotionally, physically. You have a feeling of fear. You have children not wanting to continue to go to school anymore because they are unhappy, they're not being able to succeed, they're dropping out of school because they feel like nothing is getting done, they feel like they can't report it because nothing is happening. You have hopelessness that can lead to depression, that can lead to suicide, insecurity, antisocial behavior, not wanting to be around anybody. This causes a lot of distress on the child, which can eventually cause distress on the parents, because the parents feel like the school isn't doing what they need to do in order to make sure their child is safe, making a safe and successful environment, and they don't feel like that's happening. So now the parents are stressed just like the child is stressed, and then it's causing a lot of issues in the home as well as it is in school. And neither one of those are things that you need to have. How to fix it? There are multiple ways to fix it. Now, there are things that you just can't alleviate altogether. There will be incidents that still happens, but as far as making maybe harsher punishments for the perpetrator, making it to where the victim feels safer to be able to speak out on things like this, having SROs on campus, like the security resource officer, the drug dog that does checks to make sure there's nothing in lockers, nothing in cars, nothing in backpacks. Maybe we can have the SROs kind of do the same thing to make sure there's no possession of a weapon on campus or nothing harmful that can hurt other students or things of that nature on campus. Having threat assessment teams. Some schools have where it's just admin, or they have different people that are staff members on campus. When an incident occurs, they evaluate the incident to see if the perpetrator is a harm or danger to staff and students. And if they feel that way, they do a plan of action that causes that student to either be reprimanded or causes that student to be expelled, or whatever the consequence is, to make sure that the safety of that school in its entirety is important and it's a priority. Some schools do health screenings on children and staff members just to see what's going on. You have 38% of those schools that do those screenings that provide the treatment as well for the students. How often is this being reported? It's being reported quite often, honestly, which is a good and a bad thing. The good thing is that it is being reported. There are people speaking out. There are people letting you know that these are things that are real. These are things that they deal with, that they see. The bad part about it is how high the rates are and how high violent crimes happen in schools around here. So in 2021-2022 school era, they are huge as far as what's going on with violent and non-violent crimes. Middle school has found to be the highest violent crime rates out of any other grade level. High school coming in a good second, and primary and elementary school coming in at a third. 90% of public schools report having one or more incidents higher than private schools, which with private schools there's a lot more stipulations, a lot more rules, a lot of things that they do to keep their private school the way that they do, more background checks, things of that nature. Public schools, of course, are different. Any and everybody can attend those, wherever area you're in, things of that nature. So they don't have as many rules. So I can see why it's higher in that area. And 84% of public schools reported that their crimes were non-violent crimes. What can it lead to? It can lead to multiple things. You have depression because they're constantly dealing with something like this and they feel like nothing is being done or nobody's doing anything. They're not being heard. That leads to suicide because they're in such a depression and feel like the only thing that they can do is commit that to alleviate their pain. You have more school shootings because somebody is tired of being picked on or being bullied, or even the perpetrator feels like nobody is taking their advances the way that they want it to go. Everybody's telling them no, and they feel the need to do those kind of things as well. It leads to more children having more mental health issues. We see more children dealing with things that they shouldn't deal with mentally, emotionally, physically, if it is abuse. You have more bomb threats, more juvenile rates for the perpetrators that end up getting in trouble for those, and jail rates for anybody that's 18 or over and are tried as adults when things of that nature comes about. So this is a chart of different schools that show their crime rates. And as you can see, most of those are higher in middle school than they are in high school and in elementary school. Middle school has reported a lot more violent crime rates, which is assault with a deadly weapon, rape, sexual assault, fighting, anything physical, vandalism, arson, things of that nature. Non-violent crimes were more of the name calling, the singling out, the separation. If a child couldn't participate in a certain program or children didn't want them in a certain group kind of thing. The bullying, the cyberbullying were more on the non-violent crimes. So the charts here show more of the violent crimes and how high those rates are in the middle school area. So as a conclusion, this is an issue in America that does need to be addressed. Of course, again, it's not something that is going to completely be alleviated. Like, there's nothing that's going to happen, but there should be more plans of action for a school to be able to figure out what they need to do when these incidents occur, how to make a student feel safe, how to make a staff member feel safe, how to make the parents feel like their children is safe, the families of staff members feel safe. These are things that help and will alleviate a lot of the stress that a child or a staff member can have, as well as the stress on a family. Anything that's detrimental to anybody's mental or emotional and physical state can cause issues in other areas. So this is something that needs to be fixed. This is something that needs to be dealt with. This is something that needs to be worked on. And hopefully eventually this is something that can be minimized. My name is Jacqueline Austin. I am a Human Development and Family Studies major, and thank you so much.